Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Interact podcast. My name is Josh Haynam, co founder and CEO at Interact. Today, I'm joined by Emily Lewis, also known as Emily the Mystic, intuitive mentor. You've got a great business, and I'm excited to chat about that. You also have a really cool quiz that I just went through for the second time. So, thanks for being here. And do you want to start off by just telling us about the quiz that you built and what inspired that?
Yeah. Hi, Josh. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm so excited to be here. I built this quiz on Interact a year ago, and I am just obsessed with how much volume this has brought into my business, how many new clients, new leads this has brought into my world. And at the time when I built the quiz, I wanted a way to take the work that I do in a private high level one-on-one session and translate that into a simple, easy, fast way for someone to get a taste of my work and my world without having to, pay the high ticket price, to be able to get a taste of what Emily the Mystic does. And ooh, like I can get a read on what Emily would tell me if she were if I were to have a session with her. And so I wanted to build the quiz around the fundamentals of my work, my spiritual studies, and to give people the opportunity to get to know themselves better through a new lens and a new light, because I couldn't find a starseed quiz out there like the one that I created. So I knew that I had to be the person to do it. And I'm so glad that I did.
Such a good use case. I love it when people take the stuff that they do one on one that obviously you have to charge for. You got to exist. You can't just give away
Mhm.
your time for free, but then replicate it in a more simplified version as a quiz. It's just like such a good use case. Just because I know everybody will ask, since you mentioned good results, do you care to share like roughly what the results have been in terms of impact on your business?
Yeah, so I couldn't give you a financial impact, but we have had over 1,000 leads from this quiz, which is really exciting. And it's so cool for me to see too the analytics of, because when you take this quiz, I have over 8 different profile types, and to see that there's so many different answers, like so many. All of the results are pretty evenly distributed, which I find fascinating. So that says to me that the quiz is doing its job, that it's accurate. And the feedback that I've gotten from people who've taken it is that they are so surprised at how spot on it is. So I'm just obsessed with it.
And that's quite rare. Usually there is like a concentration of like two or three of the results that most people fall into. So that's fascinating to me from like a
Hmm.
psychological standpoint, but also speaks to people's reactions where they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is really accurate." Because if you have the logic set up on the back end where you are getting people to distribute across all eight, like I'm sure that feels very personal once you see it. And I just took it and I was like, "Yeah, this is accurate. This is like pretty much how I would describe the way that I approach the world." Because your questions ask how I would approach the world, and so it's like it's kind of spitting it back to me, but also it's like in your words now, and so it's more meaningful because it's like, okay, this is coming from somebody that studies this stuff all the time. I really like that as a use case for quizzes, just like you're almost getting people to guide themselves, but then you come in as the expert. Is that how you were kind of thinking about it? Is like ultimately people have to guide themselves because we are all, our own advocates or whatever you call it. Where it's like you have to convince yourself more than somebody else has to convince you. But it's also like when you get to those results, it is in your words. Were you thinking about it that way?
Oh, 100%. And just for the listener to know what the quiz is, it is a comprehensive profile type called being a star seed. So, what does that mean? Well, it means that in my belief system, we are all from the stars. So, our soul has existed in places other than planet Earth. And so, what the quiz does is based on your consciousness, based on how you see the world, based on how you operate, you are one of the different 8 profile types based on what star systems or planets your soul has spent time in previous lifetimes. So, what you do is when you go through the quiz, it asks you a series of psychological based questions to see, ooh, which of the 8 different profile types are you? Are you a blueprinter starseed? Are you a divine messenger starseed? Are you a shadow seeker starseed? And so it kind of helps. And the purpose of it too is because there is, in the spiritual space, there is a lot of information and misinformation out there about starseed work and about the different star systems and galactic groups that one can, quote, belong to. And so I wanted to create something that was more comprehensive and had more depth to it than what I was seeing existed out there in the spiritual industry. So it's a really great way to get to know yourself better at the end of the day and learn more about where you could be from in the stars.
I like it because I think anytime you can get to know yourself better through whichever lens, and I like this lens, I think it's a cool lens. It's a helpful lens for people to think about, like, oh, what is informing the way that I show up in the world? Because I don't know, one of those philosophers from back in the day got attributed with that thing of, like, to know yourself is the beginning of wisdom, and however you can get there, and this is one way to do it, and this is a great way to do it. I think that definitely helps people just like on their journey of life in general. It's like the more you can know what's going on with yourself, the more you can change it in the way you want to, or lean into it if you don't want to change it and you like it. And it's like whether you want to change it or you want to double down on it, it's just helpful to know. So I think it's just such a good use case of that. Expanding out a little bit, I am curious, like, you mentioned 1,000 leads in a year. That's excellent. That's really great results. I'm sure a lot of people listening would be like, I would love to have that. But this is my take, and I'm curious your take on my take, which is the way that quizzes function these days really feels like it is completely dependent on how much you are resonating and how much attention you are already gathering from the people that you are trying to help and you're trying to reach. Meaning, like, I know you have a podcast, and Instagram and other channels. Like, if those are already kind of firing and working well, then a quiz that will resonate with your audience is going to do really well, like in your case. um but it starts with those other channels being built up. What do you think about that assertion?
Oh, it's so important. I mean, in order to get your quiz seen by the world, you need to bring people to the quiz in the first place. So you need to build some sort of audience credibility. And I do a bit of entrepreneurship coaching myself. And what I tell my clients is that you need to be on the platforms that you really enjoy the most, where you spend your time. So for me, I love Instagram. I love a visual platform. I love being able to share videos and pictures of my life and my work on there. That's just where I prefer to be. And I also love podcasts. I love listening to podcasts. So I love the opportunity to share long form audio content like this. So those are my chosen platforms, as well as I have a YouTube channel. And those places I had spent, when I first built the quiz, I had spent about 4 years building up those platforms to build an audience and a following. At which point I felt, okay, I could really use something interactive that's a cool free offering that not only will it give new people, again, the opportunity to dip their toes into my world, but it will also serve me the benefit of being able to add them to my email list so that I can send them more information and keep them engaged and keep them around so that I can provide a service to them, hopefully, and bring them deeper into the Emily the Mystic business model.
I That's like exactly spot on with, like, most of the other interviews that I've done, where it makes sense to introduce a quiz. I would say like the very fastest anybody's done it is like 2 years,
Yeah.
and more typical would be 3, 4, 5, sometimes 6 years, where you're building up those channels first, and then the quiz is just like, it's an interactive, it's a fun way to move people over to an email list Had you had the email list as one of those channels before, or is that a more recent addition to your mix?
I did, but I wasn't focusing on it.
Yeah.
It was not a priority for me at the time at all. And so the quiz has really helped me grow my email list. So therefore I can make it more of a priority and actually, and actually bring in more customers into my business. So the quiz has been amazing for that.
Yeah, and I'm curious your journey in terms of like which ones you did first. Did you do multiple to start off with in terms of like Instagram, YouTube, podcasts? Like, did one come first, then you added a second one? Did you jump into all three at the same time? And then roughly what did growth look like? Because I think that always helps people to put these things
Yeah.
into perspective of like, oh, after X amount of time, I had this much views, these many followers. And they're like, oh my gosh, that's way slower than I thought it was going to be
Oh,
based on the
totally.
gurus of the internet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So first started my Instagram at the beginning of 2020 before the pandemic hit. And at the time, I was actually focused on health and fitness coaching. So I started my account as Emily Logan Fitness. And in about a year, I had grown my following to about 1,000 followers. Okay. So not a lot in a first year. And I think that's important to say because it did take time for me to grow my business. And then from there, I pivoted my business model to focus on spirituality and spiritual coaching because I was starting to have more success with offering spiritual services to my growing Instagram following. So I pivoted to Emily the Mystic at the beginning of 2021. And then from there, later on in 2021, I started the YouTube channel. And then from there, I really focused most of I would say about 75% of my effort on Instagram, about 25% of my effort on YouTube. And I was able to grow my Instagram from those 1,000, 2,000 followers to 25,000 followers by the end of 2024, I want to say, beginning of 2025. So that journey of really growing my Instagram platform took several years. You guys, it wasn't 6 months. Took time. And my YouTube channel, I grew from 2021 until now. I'm at almost 3,000 subscribers. So that's going to be a big area of focus for me this year. I want to put my time, energy, and effort there to really see that following grow. And I layered in the podcast. The podcast was launched at the beginning of 2024. And now I'm at about 15,000 downloads for that. So
Do you
yeah.
consider one of these channels to be your primary? Like, how do you think about it?
I see Instagram as my primary place. That is where I go. I am showing up there almost every single day. That's where I do the majority of my marketing and my engagement and connecting with clients. And that's usually how people find me. And that is my main funnel for bringing people to my website, which is where I offer my spiritual services, my courses, my mentorship, my digital products, and things like that.
And you mentioned this earlier, but I thought it was a good point. You would recommend to people to use the channels that or create on the channels that they like to use themselves. Like if you like to consume content on Instagram, then create content on Instagram. If you like to consume podcasts, create podcasts. Is that how you think about it and how you recommend to other folks?
100% because it needs to be authentic. And the entrepreneurship journey is very personal, especially if you're selling a service or a product that's really personal to you. And so a lot of my clients that I work with struggle with visibility and the fear of being seen and putting themselves out there. And so it's harder to do that on a platform that you don't like. You're never going to want to show up. But if at least you are enjoying the experience and you're seeing what other people are doing and you want to participate, I call it having your Instagram party or your social media platform party. If you want to host a party that's going to feel good and that you're going to enjoy, so pick a platform that you're going to enjoy because you're going to be spending a lot of time at said party. For example, for me, I just have never really gotten into TikTok. I haven't gotten into Substack yet. I know that's a big hot new topic in the social media space, but For me, it's those are just not the places where as a consumer I spend my time. And so I would rather be more strategic with focusing my energy and my intent where I enjoy creating content and growing my business from there versus doing the strategy of what I think I should do based on what I'm seeing other creators have success with.
And I would imagine that's a lot more sustainable too, because I was going to ask you how you've managed to be consistent or if there's any particular practices you have that help with consistency. But I would imagine one of them is just like creating where it feels good to create. But anything else that you do? Because I mean, being consistent, creating content for 4 or 5 years is not very easy. Um, what does your routine look like for that?
Yeah, I think it starts with having offerings and services that I'm excited about offering on Instagram and on all of my social media platforms. That gets me excited to show up, to talk about those offerings, and also to talk to what's kind of coming up in my own personal life that I feel like my audience will resonate with. So I would say when I can talk to my own story and share what's going on in my own personal world, as well as when I can share information about an offering and a service that I'm really loving, that I'm obsessed with, those two things encourage me to show up. Because at the end of the day, my purpose for this business is I want to inspire people. I want to inspire people to live their best life, to live a life that's authentic to them, to find joy in their human experience. And I know that I've been able to build a community and a platform where people look to me for inspiration, for joy, to know kind of what's going on. People look to me to find out what's going on with the current astrology forecast, what's going on with the energy of the week. And so now that I've built a platform around that, I can't let people down. I can't disappear for weeks on end because then they wouldn't know where to go. So I'm at the point now where the consistency is like I have people who are looking out for me, and they need to see what's going on in my world, and so that encourages me and motivates me to show up too.
100%. And I think that a lot of people that I speak to have that same motivation where it's like the stuff that they're doing is really helping the people that are following, that are listening, that are watching, that are buying, that are subscribed, all the things, right? All the ways that people connect with your content and your world, it's actually helping them with something. And that's like what creates the sustainability. And I juxtapose that to like the kind of overnight success kind of things where it's like, hey, you can make a lot of money selling people on this dream, but then the dream never comes to fruition. And then those creators tend to kind of reinvent themselves every couple of years. And I think it probably speaks to what you're talking about, where it's like, well, the biggest motivator long term is seeing and hearing and talking to people that you are genuinely helping do something in their life, like get something, feel better, experience joy, whatever it is that they're trying to do that you can be helpful with. But my question in there is, how do you perceive or intuit, if that's the right word, what it is that people are feeling, what they're struggling with, what they are experiencing that is weighing them down? Like, what are your methods for building that intuition?
Yeah, I mean, that's such a great question. I really look a lot to the astrology, and I've spent years studying astrology. It's one of my passions, and it's one of the focuses of my businesses as well. So I really take a look at the astrology of a given week, a given month, and that's something I talk a lot about on my podcast too. I do a monthly energetic forecast to give people an idea of what is going to be coming and what the overall themes are going to be that month ahead. And so I do that. And I also use my intuition. I mean, as a spiritual business owner, a big part of what I do is channeling. It is connecting with the spirit world. It is asking questions to spiritual beings and getting answers and getting information. And I use my channeling to help discern what needs to be shared with my audience in a given week, in a given month. And I've been practicing this for 5 years now, and it resonates. People are like, wow, Emily, this is spot on. So it's so much fun for me. And yeah, every week is different, every year is different. And it's just been really cool to continuously see that my message, yeah, is resonating with my audience.
Yeah. I think that you said the word fun, and that word I think is so important as entrepreneurs. Like, if it's not fun, I don't know. It seems like it's pretty hard to keep at it for a long time, right? Like, if you're not having fun, then you're probably better off, you know, taking care of yourself economically in a different place than being an entrepreneur, because it's just like, why would you do
Why?
this? Yeah, like,
Yes.
there's so many factors that you can't control as an entrepreneur, right? And there's like so many unknowns, like you mentioned, building up YouTube this year. It's like, I'm sure that is scary on some level. It's like, oh, I've really done super well on Instagram, but like, of course I'm going to keep expanding, so now I'm going to do YouTube. And there's that, those fears that you do have to face working for yourself and building your own thing. What motivated you to move into this self-employed world?
Yeah, I was a retail buyer prior to being an entrepreneur. And in my retail buying job, I was working 7 to 7, 5 days a week, as well as traveling. I live in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I was traveling to New York City twice a week. So I was burnt out. That was a difficult job, a lot of hours, very intense, very rigorous. And I was looking for a ticket out. It was like, I can't do this forever. Like, my physical health will take a huge toll if I stay doing this. So at the beginning of the pandemic, I knew something, or even before the pandemic started, I should say, I knew something needed to change. And I started seeing content creators having success with building virtual businesses. And at the time, I was really passionate about health and fitness and saw offering personal training services virtually as a way that I could build a bridge to leave my corporate job. And so the motivation of being able to work from home and have my own schedule and work for myself and not need to work for anybody else was really what pushed me and motivated me. And I couldn't even imagine at this point working for anyone else. I couldn't do it again. So it's so fun to be my own boss. But of course, like, as you know, there are challenges and there's so many things that come along with having to be a self-motivated entrepreneur. So it's always changing and I'm always evolving, but I honestly wouldn't have it any other way.
100%. And I do think what you said earlier is probably the key unlock to all this. Like, having people that look to you or are getting inspiration from you, getting help from you, solving problems because of things that you are able to share with them, and having that feedback loop. It's just human to human connection. Like, I think the whole myth of like an online business that's totally hands off and you're just creating something and people just give you money and there's no sort of actual
Oh,
interaction, it's like
yeah.
a bunch of junk. And it also, like, again, like, you can't be sustainable if you're thinking about it that way, as just like extracting. It has to be more of a conversation, a positive trade where both sides are benefiting.
Well, it's so fascinating because my whole journey started that way of like seeing this business as a ticket out of my corporate job. And then along the way, I found my purpose. And along the way, I found, oh, this is actually what I meant to do with my life. Like working with people and building relationships and changing lives and changing the world in a way that, I can do at least a small fraction of change. If I can leave a positive impact on this planet with what's going on out there, then I will stop at nothing to be able to do that. And so that is really what drives me and motivates me at the end of the day is helping someone else out there see that there are other possibilities to life than what we're told by our society, or what the normal 9 to 5 or the normal sort of job or the normal, kind of way of living. I want people to see that there are so many other possibilities out there for living an authentic life, and that life can be fun and life can be joyful. And I want to encourage people to, yeah, live their most authentic truth.
I mean, it's so interesting that that's how it came about. I feel like that's like so common where you start for one reason and then within it just kind of like reveals itself at some point where it's like, oh, this is actually why I'm doing this. And maybe it was always subconscious, like
Hmm.
maybe in the back of your brain it was like that was what was motivating you, but then the whole like economic thing you had to take care of first. So that started it, but then it does circle back around to ultimately your purpose and what you're meant to do in the world, which again, coming back around, like that's what makes it sustainable. That's what makes it like, yeah, I could keep doing this for another 10 years, another 20 years, however long, which I think is super cool. Super cool. Well, thanks for sharing all this. Where can people follow you on Instagram, since that's your main one? And then check out the YouTube channel as it's growing, take the quiz, and see your other offers. Where can people check out your stuff?
Yeah, find me on Instagram and YouTube. I'm at Emily the Mystic. And once you go to my Instagram page, you will see the quiz at the very top. There's a link right there, so you can go check it out. It's really fun. Again, find out which of the 8 different starseed archetypes you are. And there's also a video linked. So once you get your archetype, you also get a video where I explain in depth more information to you about what that means for you in your life. So super fun. And also, I have a variety of spiritual services available on my website, emilythemystic.com. And also, I have a podcast called The Emily the Mystic Show. So come and listen to my energy forecasts and learn about what is going on out there in the spiritual space.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much, Emily. This was super insightful and I really appreciate it.
Of course, thanks for having me on the show.